I hope everybody's well. I wanted to share a couple of reflections I've had over a particular topic that's been on my mind. And I've been wanting to do this for a little while now. I just wanted to approach it in a completely safe, politically correct way so it doesn't insult anyone, because that's not my intentions. Although today, people can get insulted with the slightest thing. These are thoughts that I've shared with others inside, parents inside the school, and friends that we talk about. So my reflection and the topic of this video is stop entertaining your kids. Stop it. We have gone overboard in entertaining our kids to such an extent where in the amount of time that I've had my school, and I've had it for almost 3 decades. I've been working with kids for almost 3 decades. I've had the school a lot longer. And I'm a very observant individual, one that's, doesn't just sit here and just teach the techniques. I do. I was a very curious individual as a kid. A lot of questions, a lot of inquiries. Some were answered, some were not. So I had to dig myself down into the rabbit hole to figure out a lot of things, a lot of the questions that people had no answers for, right? So, but the answers are out there. And one of the main concerns that I've had and I've seen and I've observed lately is this excessive over entertainment and the need to entertain our kids, especially these generations here, the kids, between ages 5 and 16, 17, 16. I'd say 5 and 14. I've seen a drastic change in emotional and mental disposition on these kids. And it has caused, I believe, more harm than good, because if we look at it culturally, in my school there's a diverse amount of cultures in here, and these cultures are around thousands of years, not just the Greeks. We have Lebanese who are Phoenician, Iranians, Armenians, Syrians, Moroccans, Indians, Pakistani, Italians. So we have a diverse amount of cultures in this school with a history of child rearing as a culture for thousands of years. Now, going back to the entertaining of our kids, I've seen parents in this last generation of parents, and I don't want to come down on parents hard. If I can, my job in my school is not just to teach the kids. Teaching kids martial arts is a byproduct. Learning how to become a good fighter, one who can defend themselves, is a byproduct of what we do inside here. It is being able to. My attempt is to try to do what my teachers did for me and what I had to find out on my own as well along this journey. And to any warrior culture, anybody who's done any history on the warrior culture, it was, in the beginning it was all about the moves, the heroism, the grandeur of the warrior culture, and then the training comes in. When the training comes in, it's a totally different scenario. Now all this ties together what I'm trying to say. It's just that I expand left and right. So you have to be very patient with me. Now, once the training comes in, like there's a saying that says, the fantasy of becoming something is quickly snuffed out by the training of that particular thing. So once you come into this warrior culture, it's an immediate impact on you. Now it's the teacher that is supposed to, embolden the student. The parents help motivate the student. They help but they can't inspire the student unless the parent himself is also involved in whatever the student is doing. That's something that has to be taken into consideration, right? So the primary job of the teacher is, as the old teachers, the teachers of old, we're talking about Aristotle and Socrates and blah, 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 is to inspire the student to feel inspired, okay? But there must be certain elements, certain things put into place in order for that to happen. It can be contrary in the house, and this is a perspective the parents need to understand. It's all in the perspective. If you want to see changes in a child, or in the case of young kids where they're growing and they're being molded, you're not implementing changes. Changes happen at the teenage, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. This is where the changes are occurring. You're making changes in your life. Here is molding. You're talking about 3, 4, 5-year-olds that I've had over here, 3-year-olds. I can't tell you how many I've had. These are molding periods, but there must be elements in place in the house in order for these to be successful, and they are successful if these are done. Now, I have to say that the generation of parents I have in my school right now, a lot of them, I'm blessed to say I attract those type of parents. This generation of parents of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds, and some, these are parents that are more my generation. I think they're seeing the in-between my generation and them. The parents after my generation, I'm 60, so, the parents after my generation, I have something completely different to say to them. That's a totally different video. The damage is, there's a lot of damage that's been done, and it's because of having to be way too nice with your kids, too good friends. We were just great friends, and I don't want to disappoint him. I want my kid to love him. And we're living in a society that is not taught by culture. It's a society that has been taught by pop culture, meaning what's out on Facebook, what's out on Instagram, and what I heard in the news, what I read on in a magazine. That's what taught. Oh, good idea. Oh, this. You see, professionals, therapists, don't look at this stuff. They look at it with a grain of salt, and they go, oh, okay. Interesting perspective, but, whatever. I mean, you have to look at it from a whole perspective, and we've basically thrown everything out the window. We have taken thousands of years of cultural upbringing, and somebody said in some media, be it newspaper, radio, this, online, that, thousands of years of rearing kids, has been done wrong. Look at our society today. Seriously? Our society is good for the fucking garbage. Excuse my language. Our society is good for the garbage. Complete garbage. I mean, we have kids that at the age of 14, 15, 16 years old are emotionally distraught. At 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 are emotionally disturbed. They're panic-stricken, anxiety-filled. They don't trust themselves. And I'm looking at my generation of kids. We weren't like that. We were threatened at school, as a 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old. Once we went back into our neighborhoods, out of sight, out of mind. It was gone up until the next day, and we dealt with it then. But that's not today. Today, it's being pushed forward. Now, to go back to the subject of, stop entertaining your kids. Please, you have to stop entertaining your kids. This need to constantly have them do a million things, a million things, keep them busy, keep them this, is totally unconstructive and a detriment to them because they can't really cling on to anything. It's just a form of overstimulation. You're feeding your kid the drug, to put it lightly. You are basically feeding your kid the drug. This is exactly what's going on. This is the discussions we have with the parents at the school, and we all agree we're on the same page. They're the same page parents. They see it. They're concerned with their kids, with how their kids are going to grow. You cannot put your kids in a million different things and expect them to be good at something. Now, the old saying is good at everything, master at none. I think that's the original saying. I tend to like better the sarcastic side of it, or more cynical side. Master at everything, good at none. I mean, you can't be a master at everything. And if you can't be a master at anything in particular, and mechanical engineering is not being a master at anything. That's not a master of you. So that's just a master of your career at hand. That's all it is. Helpful in bringing in money and understanding the way certain things work, but not the way you function. How many divorced electrical engineers, doctors, lawyers are out there? If being in a particular career made them a better person, well, somewhere down the line it failed. The thing is to be able to master yourself is to be able to have something that you go through monotony, Boredom. Repetition, 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 repetition. I can repeat that word a million times, and it's not enough. You know, your kid did not learn how to write the alphabet by writing the A once, getting it perfect, and then, hey, you know what? I'm a little bored of the A. Let's move on to B. Oh, I'm a little bored of B now. I already did it. Scribbled up. Doesn't look, you know, doesn't look anything like a B. But, you know, next. I'm just going to drop something that I find a little difficult. Next. Or in this case of, you know, try the A. Oh, look at that. Okay, it was good. Let's try the B. Oh, okay, that's good. That's a, you know, shitty looking. Doesn't look anything like what it's supposed to. But they're trying it out anyways. You know, now they're being taught that, did you have fun doing it? It was a nice experience just taking, further, they can't even hold the pen properly. It takes years. It takes a certain amount of time for them to learn how to hold the pen properly. I use this analogy in the school because it is exactly what it is. They have to write it over and over and over again. Go look at your kid's copybook. Well, our copybooks, at our time, we had copybooks full of A, B's, and C's, and D's. I mean, pages and pages and pages and pages. Because they understood that repetition was it. Now, if a child is going through a myriad of different sports, a myriad of different activities, and constantly stimulated, he has no time, first and foremost, to reflect, no time for himself, which he needs the time for themselves. They need the time to be bored by themselves so they can figure things out in their mind. So they can sit back and do things and construct things. I remember when we had this conversation with my kids, you know, when my kids were very, very young. Now they're in their 20s, mid-20s and late 20s, and I'm blessed to have them, you know, and I thank God for blessing me to have these kids, you know, and I was not the perfect father. Nobody gave me the manual. My parents didn't say, give me the manual. My parents instilled guilt in me. You know, wait till your kids, like every other parent, you know, wait till you have your own kids, wait till you have, blah, 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 blah. Well, I had kids, but I understood that having read also my culture, being able to discern and see other people's mistakes and understand that too much sugar, too much sweet is no good for you. There must be a balance. And first and foremost, I'm your dad, I'm not your friend. I'm your dad, and understand what that means. I'm not there to beat on you, I'm not there to, you know, overscold you, nag you. I'm there to guide you through. And there's consequences and benefits to every action. So, but I wasn't the perfect dad, far from it, made my own mistakes. But I do remember, you know, discussing with my kids that we would play PlayStation for a certain amount of time on the weekend, and then after an hour and a half or something on a Saturday or a Sunday, it was mostly on a Saturday because my kids had two activities. They had this, pancreation, which most people know as MMA, and they had another sport. My daughter had dance. She loved it. She started at 6, 26 years old. She's teaching it now. She went competitive, and now she's teaching it. And she's got something to offer somebody. You understand? But after a while, and my son has his own thing. So, but after a while, an hour and a half, I'd say, okay, this is over, it's done. Closed, TV closed, the PlayStation closed, TV closed with the PlayStation. Do your own stuff. I'm going into the kitchen, living room. I'd go back playing my guitar or something or whatever. And they, within a matter of 5-10 minutes, already engaged in building stuff. Their imagination started to go. Because that's what they're supposed to do. But we would also do activities on the outside, let them do their own thing on the outside, behind, in the backyard. You know, I'd be there monitoring them, watching them. You know, my eyes always on them. It was a closed off backyard. Not anybody can come in. Anybody did. The big bag dog was there, you know. So, but we allowed them that free time as opposed to overstimulating them. Hurry up, we have ISO. Hurry up, we have clip and climb. Hurry up, you have your martial arts. Hurry up, you have your soccer. Hurry up, you have your basketball. Hurry up, you have your football. Hurry up, you have your this. Hurry up, you have your... This is insanity. It's insane. What you're doing is you as a parent are feeding your kid the drug that is addicting them, that is causing way too much wiring in the head. We're talking about at an early age. And I'll tell you what the consequences is for that. And I've seen it, you know, every university study that I've ever read over time has been materialized in my school. I've seen it. This is bang on, old old, when peer reviews were peer reviews, they were real, not today's pseudo-psychology and pseudo-reviews. They're not even peer-reviewed, and they're putting them up in journals. And mind you, there are scientists that are fighting against that, suing these journals because of bad peer reviews, non-peer reviews treated as peer reviews, okay? So, the thing is that they are so overstimulated that by the time, especially at an early age, that by the time they're 13, they're tired. And then the big stimulation kicks in. What is that? Well, it's high school. And high school has its own stimulation. New people, new attitudes, new girls, they're growing, they're in puberty. This is huge, you know, new temptations. And they will go according to what they have been taught. This is what happens. So at an early age, you know, this overstimulating drug and the over amount of activities has tired them out, absolutely tired them out. By the time they're in their, you know, early teens, they want nothing to do with anything anymore in terms of activities. I'll tell you one of the reasons, and it might sound harsh, and I don't mean it to be harsh, because parents are either over motivating, pressuring, or under. Do what you like. Do what you like. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. Well, if you don't like it anymore, don't. Instead of teaching them the lesson, you know, this is why I wonder sometimes, what have parents learned in their time? Instead of teaching them the lesson of their culture and say, well, listen, you started something, you finish. I'll give you a good example. And these are topics for separate videos in themselves because there's so much to say for them. But, you know, for example, back years ago, I won't say my time, but because my time was, they were pretty standard. We were raised by parents that said, you start something, you finish it. The majority of the people in my time, and a little over, and a little past my time, you know, I can't say today, but I will say up until about maybe 20 years ago, most people did martial arts to at least get to their black belt. At a very minimum, 5 to 7 years. At a very minimum, 5 to 7 years. Today, parents are treating martial arts like an activity. I can't tell you how many people will call me up and say, yeah, my son's looking for a summer activity to do. You know, you have a martial arts course for 3 months or 2 months. And I go, no, I don't. This is a lifestyle. This is a lifestyle. This is not an activity. It is an activity. Walking is an activity. Throwing darts is an activity, you know. Sitting there and, you know, yelling at people as they go by is an activity. This is not an activity. Distinguish, and people must discern between something that builds, a skill that builds, and something that is for the sake of being active, having fun. You can jump into a soccer field right away and have fun. Hockey arena, have fun. Skating, woo, have fun. Anything, basketball, play the ball is fun, stimulating. But it takes years to build that sport. And I have 3 examples in my school that are in their 20s, kids. I call them kids because they are, and they're amazing. And I love these kids. They are the prime role models of what it's like to take a kid from very young at a particular sport who actually stuck to it from, let's say, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old and continued it, and now are playing at a high level. Maybe not in the NHL or in the or in FIFA, but they're still doing it. In other words, at the level where they can actually teach it, they can make a living out of it teaching this. They don't have to be in FIFA, because out of the millions of people that have tried for soccer or hockey, only a few make it through. But that doesn't mean the ones on the bottom have less experience than those guys on top. Sometimes those guys on top are the worst in terms of instructors. But they stuck to it. Why? And they became good at it. Why? Because they did stick to it. Because they had parents that said, nope, you stick to it. No, you stick to that. That's old school. And now they have something to show for it. And they're training with me here full time. And they work and they go to school. That's it. But they have something now to look back and say, wow, what a journey. I know something. I mean, I really know something. I don't just know of it. I know something. I didn't just do it. I know it well. I have Vas, for example, will probably rip me through, with the ball in soccer. And Anthony or John will probably just tear me apart. And I coached hockey. And I played hockey too up until a certain, a decent level. Not as high as them, but a decent level while I was doing martial arts. I just happened to choose this. But that's it. This is what they did. They didn't jump from place to place to place to place. And if you take a look at them mentally, they're more somber, more calm, more together, feet on the ground. They know themselves well. They've been through the constructs of this, because it only becomes a discipline after many years. In the martial arts, once you jump in, especially in my school, you're in testing yourself. We're having a little fun, age appropriate, but you're testing yourself. This is what it is. So now if you stick to one thing, or two at the very most, two, and not allow yourself and learn through those two things, because you're learning that, yes, when times get tough, I still have to go through this. I still have to figure this out. I loved what I did. This, I don't like it anymore, or I don't love, or I'm bored. They got to go through this. They can't be doing something 2-3 years that actually, as you've invested time in and put it in, there's got to be something wrong for those people that actually stop it. And most of the time I've seen I've seen it, there's always an external element why these kids will stop doing what they're doing. It's always an external stimulation, something that was outside of them that caused them to say, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. Either discouraged from their parents, not motivated properly or inspired properly by their teachers, That's what it is. That's just a few of the things. And it's a little bit more complicated than that, but very few people who actually, my generation, and for thousands of years after that, how many of us went through it? And I know people even for my generation still doing it today. Maybe not full time or teaching it, but they're still training. Why? Because they appreciated the skill they developed. But when you're constantly sending the kids to this, to that, to this, to that, there will come a time where they will look back and say, I have nothing. I really have nothing. I did this, past tense. I did that, past tense. Did does not account for anything. I do. You can't, graduate as a mechanical engineer, work 30 years afterwards in the restaurant business, and then come back and go to a mechanical engineering firm and said, well, I went to school for mechanical engineering. I haven't worked in it, but I've been cook or running a restaurant for that long, and I have no experience in mechanical engineering. I don't know if they would take that, I don't know if they would take that, into consideration and hire you. You have to have been inside the business a certain amount of time. I do, not I did. The I dids, especially at a young age, means absolutely nothing. When you have a kid that stops at 12 or 13 years old, either you didn't do your job or the teacher didn't do his job properly. And most of the times it is the parents. Sometimes it's the teacher. It is. It can be the art too. Completely boring, I totally get that. I do. There are other elements, certain elements in there. But I know people who are at, in any martial art or boxing, it's only just fists. There's no elbows involved, there's no nothing. Just fists. But the science to it and the challenge, self-challenge to it is absolutely inspiring. It's motivating. This is what gets a kid to go up there. Now for a kid to stop, something went wrong. Something went wrong there. See here, this is not the problem today. The problem here is kids are being overstimulated and entertained. What do you want, honey? What do you want? You don't want to do this? Well, what do you want? What do I want? You mean as a parent, you don't have the decisiveness to say, well, I know what you want. I know what you want and I know what you need. And I'm going to give you what you need, and then you can choose one of the two of what you want. Simple as that. I'm seeing parents, reward the things that should be a given. Oh, you did your homework, reward. Oh, you were good in school, reward. So now you're teaching your kid that he needs a reward in order to do what? To breathe, to blink, to go to the bathroom, not defecate on himself. This is where we're at today. Because you're not teaching your kid that you enjoy this, it's fine. I help parents help understand their kids, because I have experience with my kids too. I have experience, my kids are in their 20s. I understand the good, the do's and don'ts. When to pick the battles, when not to pick the battles, and there's no perfect science to this. There's no perfection to this. This is always constantly trial and error and experience. And learning to read your kids. Not give in to your kids, enable your kids, with the constant whim, because you're going to raise a child that's going to demand everything from the world and nothing, but he or she has nothing to give into the world, to give back. They have nothing. The There's an old saying from, oh my God, I forgot his name. This is what happens when you're constantly reading and you get to a point where you just forget the name. Was it Solon? I think it was Solon. I could be wrong, but I think it was Solon. Who said, Solonas. I think it was him, but I could be wrong. Anyways, he says that we do not train our kids in pancreation or in the combat arts generally, or let's just say in the disciplines in generally, so that they can become Olympians, because only those few will have that ability to get to that level, but so that they can become worthy and good citizens of society. It's not a communist saying, it's not anything like that, it's not political. But because they understood the value of putting kids through training, through discipline, they would become the very only tiny bit would actually make it to the Olympics as they are today. But like I give the example to my kids, what about the millions that are almost as good as them, but today lack by a millisecond, that couldn't make it up there? What about them? They're still doing what they do. In order for them to have invested so much time and reach, only few kind of like drop out, but many of them continue. And that's because their parents understood that, this is what discipline is, and they pushed them in the right way. They didn't overstimulate them. They didn't have them jump from place to place. Now those kids that are up at that level, whether it's competitive or not, they can reflect back on a daily basis, or and look back and say, wow, man, what an experience I've had, and I still have, and what I have to offer, and I found myself. This is what it is about. But when you're constantly out to entertain your kids, you're basically feeding him the drug that is making him addicted to this, to a constant stimulation. And when his brain and body cannot relax anymore, he's done. He or she is done. They're looking for, an exodus, a way out, and a new stimulation, but they're still hooked on the stimulation. When new stimulation comes around, man, they hook onto it. They, teeth and nails, they put their claws into that stimulation. And that, because their own hormones are more powerful than any external drug, will latch onto that and won't let it go. Why? Because you've taught them that they should be constantly wired. And then you say, my kid is panic stricken, this, that. We try to get him to do this and get him to do that. And, we have him here, we have him there, we have him everywhere to release his energy. But you don't have him quieting down, doing something on his own. That's the problem. And you haven't taught him that, no, you will stick to this and this. And this is what it is. You did your time in it. Now you want to go to your room and practice your kicking or your whatever else you need to do, your little shadow boxing, see how you move and blah, blah, blah. Fine. You want to go into, or if dance is the thing, you move, fine. The rest of the time, no, you're not on the tablet, you're not on the television. Go and do something else. Read, play, build. Your own time, not stimulant time. This is the difference between allowing your child to find themselves through one discipline and one sport, what they need and what they want, and overstimulating them with, today we're going here, tomorrow we're going there, tomorrow. The kid is this is a drug for him, and now add the tablet to it. You're basically raising, this is a recipe for disaster. That's what you're doing. You're raising a human being that will be broken, extremely broken, before they even get into a relationship to be broken. And they will break relationships, including work, because their ability to communicate behaviors is not there. They haven't been taught to simmer down, relax, look at things from a non-emotional perspective, calm. They've been overwired, overstimulated. They have now become stimulant junkies. And this is, I'm just scratching the surface of this particular topic. I can go on, but I don't want to. I just want to leave it over here and let you know that, and pass this message. Stop entertaining your kids. Give your kids what they need as parents, and what they want, minimal. They need to know the difference also. One will hurt, because all medicine hurts. Anything that's growth spurs hurt, but that's growth. Anything will hurt a little bit, you know? Combat arts hurt, martial arts hurt, boxing hurts because they're uncomfortable. But if it's done properly, they'll feel like they should they'll conquer Mount Everest. This is if it's done properly. All kids want that. But all kids get addicted to the do whatever you want. And then that's when things go out of control. And then give them one sport. You like this? You enjoyed soccer? You really do? Well, that's what you're sticking to. Oh, but mom, next year I want to play hockey. But wait a minute. Hold on a second. You can only become good at one thing, buddy. Okay, you want to play hockey? You want to try hockey? Let's try soccer for a month, and let's try hockey for a month, see what you like the most, and then stay in it. Have a little fun. But you never know where that will go. You never know. But if they're jumping from sport to sport, even that won't go anywhere. That's all I wanted to say. I hope you take this, this was not meant to be personal or offensive in any way. This is my reflections and my thoughts of, the happenings over here at the school and what I see. With the kids, there's another topic that needs to be addressed of the males today of the ages 14 and up, 14 and 18, 19, that really needs to be addressed, and that's for another video. So I just want to leave you with that in mind. And I wish everybody a great, safe summer. And don't let pop culture raise your kids. Dig into your cultures and study your culture and study your faith. I'm a Christian. I follow Jesus. I cannot live without that, and that has been my foundation. And that in itself is education for me. So, it doesn't hurt to listen to somebody that's got some wisdom also. So until next time, have a great one. Take care.